OpenAI's second day of its 12 days of innovation focuses on fine-tuning models for expert tasks. Google's CEO predicts profound changes to search in 2025, and Mozilla is rebranding as it struggles for relevance. Welcome to #Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. OpenAI's second day of its 12-day innovation announcement focused on a new feature that is in alpha testing and will be released next year, called reinforcement fine-tuning. Now, fine-tuning is not a new concept. After a model runs through its training sequence, which involves ingesting a huge amount of data, the models are often fine-tuned. In fact, OpenAI used a form of reinforcement learning with human feedback, RLHF, to develop and fine-tune earlier versions of its models, and many claim that that was the big advancement that really gave us the early GPT models. RLHF used human evaluators to guide the model's behavior towards desirable outcomes. But this new addition, reinforcement fine-tuning, is another level of model optimization that can be used to take a base frontier model and tune it in a way that gives it additional expert abilities in a particular domain. A form of this training has already been used at OpenAI, and as the presentation outlined, that's one of the ways they've taken their existing models from performing at a high school level to a PhD level of expertise. The differentiation here is twofold. First, OpenAI is planning on making this available more widely, eventually allowing anyone to use this to create their own expert model on top of the frontier model. Second, and most amazing, is that the number of examples that are needed can be as little as a dozen or even a few dozen examples. So as an example of this, OpenAI is working with Thomson Reuters and their unique data set of legal knowledge to create training for what they're calling a co-counsel AI, an AI that could do some very complex legal analysis. Now, as an aside, in our story last week, we mentioned that day one focused on areas where OpenAI is perceived to have a competitive disadvantage, coding being one of them, where ChatGPT is largely regarded as inferior to Anthropic's Claude AI. It's interesting that the second day started with the example of a legal AI expert. Why? Well, Elon Musk has been trumpeting that his XAI is being trained to provide an expert legal service, and this takes Musk on head first. It's well known by now there's no love lost between Musk and Sam Altman at this point. In fact, at the same time that Musk was announcing the specialty in legal expertise for XAI, Musk was also making a deal with NVIDIA to buy $1 billion worth of GPUs, which is going to suck up a lot of the market and potentially create problems for OpenAI and others. One industry watcher reported that Altman had questioned how Musk had essentially pulled one over on Microsoft, who OpenAI partners with. So minor digression, but interesting to watch how OpenAI is using these announcements as part of a competitive attack. And there is a qualification here. A demo, as we know, is not evidence of real-world ability. But after they had done the mention of the legal partnership, they pulled the Steve Jobs moment where they did that one more thing where the crew of engineers, without Sam Altman this time, brought in a professor, I think he was from Berkeley, to demonstrate how important this new facility would be. And they carefully took it from a commercial legal area to a much more altruistic example. Their use case was how this could be applied to rare genetic diseases, and their researcher was clear that these might be rare in terms of having a relatively few cases of each individual disease, but that in aggregate, over 300 million people worldwide are afflicted by these types of diseases, almost the population of the United States. So, they demonstrated how the model could be trained to increase its expertise in diagnosis. They took disease information from a number of publications and curated it, and then they applied reinforcement fine-tuning and demonstrated the increased ability of the model. They were quite clear that the results were not that the model could now recognize new symptoms that it had in its training data. It could actually generalize this knowledge to new circumstances. So you could present symptoms and it could score highly on situations it had not seen in the original training data. So how effective were these? The demo did show a marked improvement. It correctly diagnosed the genes that were associated with a set of symptoms not in its training. And they took the O1 mini model, which is quite small, and after its training, it outperformed the 401 production model, which is their very best model. This is quite a feat. Now, to reduce the hype on this, while the expert they used did say that this was an improvement, he was careful to say it might augment but not replace existing tools used to diagnose these ailments and match them with the genes that cause them. So while the team of AI engineers were excited, their outside expert was interested but hardly over the moon. Now, that could be his personality, or that could be it's still early days. Now, he was complimentary about the model's ability to reason and deal with problems it hadn't seen. He was also impressed with the fact that the model also showed its reasoning. Again, this is a very early announcement, but OpenAI is inviting other researchers and organizations with great potential use cases to participate and work with them over the next few months to develop this further and create new expert models. What was not clear to me, and something that I think requires some additional research, was whether this training would be used to develop what we assume would be proprietary expertise on top of the base model. We presume that Thomson Reuters is a business partner and isn't going to give up their expertise for free. But I was left wondering if this would all be specialized proprietary additions, or some of this additional training would be used to advance the overall model. We'll find out more in the coming days, I'm sure. That's the big story. With what little oxygen there was left for other stories, Google's CEO Sundar Pichai took a poke at Microsoft and OpenAI when he announced that the company's search engine will undergo significant changes in 2025, tackling more complex questions than ever before. Speaking at the New York Times DealBook Summit, Pichai said, "You'll be surprised even in early 25 at what search will be able to do compared to today." This follows Google's ongoing AI-driven overhaul of its search engine, which now includes AI-generated summaries and features like enhanced video search via Google Lens. The company is also preparing to roll out updates to its Gemini AI model designed to compete with Microsoft and OpenAI. Pichai addressed Microsoft's AI advancements, particularly its partnership with OpenAI, saying, "I'd love to do a side-by-side comparison of Microsoft's own models with ours," which Pichai went on to emphasize Microsoft was using somebody else's model. Ooh, burn. He emphasized Google's commitment to remaining at the forefront of AI innovation. As competition at AI search intensifies, 2025 could be the most competitive year for search we've ever seen, as Google tries to catch up with or exceed Perplexity AI and OpenAI's search. Hey, maybe competition really is a good thing. And finally, what might have been a good idea but bad timing in terms of the fact that there's been a lot of news in early December. Mozilla's recent rebranding aims to emphasize its commitment to an open and accessible internet, highlighting its role beyond the Firefox browser. The new brand identity, developed with Jones Knowles Ritchie, features a refreshed logo and custom typefaces reflecting Mozilla's activist spirit and its mission to reclaim the internet. However, the timing of this rebrand coincides with significant organizational challenges. In November, the Mozilla Foundation laid off 30% of its workforce, eliminating its advocacy and global programs divisions, and this restructuring raised concerns about Mozilla's capacity to fulfill its mission in promoting this free and open web. Financially, Mozilla's facing hurdles with a substantial portion of its revenue, 86% as of late 2022, coming from a search partnership with Google. This dependency is precarious, especially amid legal challenges to such agreements. Additionally, Firefox market shares declined, dropping to as much as 2.65% in 2024, from nearly a third of users in 2009. While the rebranding seeks to revitalize Mozilla's image, the organization must address its financial and operational challenges to maintain its relevance and effectively advocate for internet openness. For those of us who've been a Firefox fan in the past but now find ourselves on Chrome more times than not, this is going to be a tough battle for Mozilla. And that's our show for today. Reach me at editorial@technewsday.ca. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a marvelous Monday.